Welcome back everyone to my YouTube channel WebDevWise. So this is the second video on my YouTube channel where we are going to talk about the Next.js application and we are going to build something awesome in this video. Let me give you a quick demo what we are going to do in this tutorial. So in this application we have built this page in the previous video. You can find the link in the description for this application. We have got simple navigation here, about page, vision page, services page, and I've added one more button on the top right. You can see it says sign in. Once I click on the sign in button, you are navigated to the Google sign in page. I'll click on sign in with Google and it asks me with which account you want to sign in. I'm selecting my account webdevwise100@gmail.com. I'll select this. I'll give my password and I'm signed in now. So if you look at this on the top right, I'm getting my Google image, and to validate I'm signed in, I just clicked on my image and I can see the details. WebDevWise, this is my email address. And you can see one more interesting thing. You have got new page called dashboard. You have got the sign out functionality as well. Let's try to navigate to the dashboard page. Once we click on the dashboard page, you can see all the details which are coming from the Google. That is the name, the email address, the image URL, which you can see on the top right, and the token expiration date. If you click on the menu icon again and sign out, but before signing out, look at the URL. It says localhost 3000 dashboard. Just keep it in mind. Now I'm going to sign out from this application and we are back to the localhost 3000. That is the home route. Let's try to navigate back to dashboard once the user is signed out. I'll hit enter and the application won't let me to go to that dashboard page. The reason being my dashboard page is a protected route and I can't really go without signing into that page. So let's get started. In the previous video, we created a theme context provider and wrapped our children around that theme context provider. The page.jsx points to this HTTP localhost 3000 route. And we created multiple pages as well. The about page, vision page, services page. And each of the page is a public route in the system. In this video, what we are going to do is, we are going to extend this application further. Let's look at it. What we are going to do. We are going to wrap our application further in a session provider. What this session provider is, we are going to talk about it and how we can utilize this session provider to restrict or to make our routes protected. We are going to talk about in the further tutorial. If you look at this in the layout.jsx, I've wrapped my entire child components under the session provider and I've created a dashboard page which is a protected route. I'm going to tell you how exactly we can protect our routes. But before that, to the codes which you have written throughout this tutorial, I've stored everything under my GitHub repository. You can navigate to this GitHub repository by utilizing the link which is in there in the description. I've not provided all the files because I want you to code along with me, but I've provided you the files which are necessary to work on this project. The 5 files which I provided is session provider, the sign in button, the dashboard page, the next auth API route, and environment file. To make this authentication work, firstly, what we have to do is we have to install a package in our application called nextauth.js. To install this, what we have to do, we have to just type in this command called npm install nextauth. Once we install this application into our current project, we will be provided with all the session provider details from the next.js. You can go through the documentation, which is very well provided by nextauth on this website. And what we are going to do, we are going to utilize the providers provided by nextauth. We are going to use the Google provider. Let me try to search for it. Amazon Battle. Here is the Google provider. We are going to utilize this Google provider in our project. So let's jump right into our previous project and then we'll get started. You can see on the left hand side, I've opened my previous project which we created together in the first video. I'll link to that on the top right section as well as in the description. In this application, we created a simple page with 3 navigations: about, services, and vision. Let's try to run this application. npm run dev, and let's see where we progressed. So this was the application with about, services, vision page. Now, as I mentioned, we are going to install the next-auth package in this application. So let me stop this server and let's head back to next-auth. To install this, I'm going to say npm install next-auth. In the meantime, it is installing. Let's go back to the documentation. To make this next-auth work, we have to utilize the API route in our application. So what we are going to do under the app router, we are going to create one more folder called API. Under this API folder, we are going to create one more folder called auth, and then we are going to utilize the spread operator for next auth folder location. Under this, we are going to create a file called route.js, and in this route.js file, what we are going to do, we are going to write down the logic for the session providers. So let's head back to our GitHub repository. Let's see what all details we have got. We have got our nextauth API route.js file here. Let me copy this code and we'll talk through it. What exactly are we trying to achieve? If we look at the top, we have got our nextauth from nextauth package, and I have imported Google provider. The Google provider is a provider under auth options, and it requires two details: the client ID and the client secret. From where are we going to get these client ID and client secret? Is from the environment file. Let me save this really quickly and head back to our environment file. In this case, we don't have our environment file with us. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a .env file on the topmost directory. In this .env file, we have to add that Google Client ID and Google Client secret. So on the GitHub repository, you have got environment file as well. Let's copy this environment file together and paste it over here. This environment file needs two more details: the next-auth secret, which is a secret which will be used by yourself for authentication, and the next-auth URL, which is our localhost 3000. We have created two more variables called Google Client ID, Google Client Secret, and we are going to enter values here. To get the value for your Google Client ID and Google Client Secret, what you have to do, you have to navigate to a path called console.cloud.google.com. Once you open this navigation, you will be presented with all the cloud services from the Google. We have to navigate onto the top left menu, and then we have to select the credentials button. To create credentials, firstly we have to create a project. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say next-auth project as a new project. It will take a moment to get this project created into the system. And now our project is created. Go back to the credentials and create credentials in your application. The option which we are going to select is OAuth client ID. We will select this create OAuth client ID screen and configure the consent screen. What is the type of user? It is an internal user. I'm going to select this for my application. Okay, so I'll select the external. Create. The app name is NextAuth YouTube. User email webdevwise 800. I don't want to give my logo. The domain, I'm going to say http localhost colon 3000 and save and continue. I'm going to give the developer contact email as well, webdevwise100@gmail.com. Save and continue. The scopes, I'm not going to provide any scope. Save and continue, and we are done. Let's head back to credentials and create a credential for OAuth client ID. The application type I'm going to select is web application. The name will be, you can name it anything. I'm going to say next-auth YouTube. The URL which we are going to provide is http localhost 3000 from the browser and authorized redirect URL. So from where are we going to get this authorized redirect URL? From the next-auth package. Let's go to the providers, back again, and then try to search for Google. There is the Google. If you look at this, you will get the callback URL. So this is the development callback URL. I am going to paste this and I'm going to say create. The moment you click create, you will get a client ID and client secret from Google. I'm going to paste this client ID into my project and the client secret I'm going to copy from here and paste it over here. Let's give it a quick save and head back to our application. The next step of creating the next-auth application is to create the session provider. Where are we going to create the session provider? Under the components, I'm going to create one more file called sessionproviders.js, and under this file I'm going to copy the code from my GitHub repository for the session providers. It is nothing but a context provider in our application. Let's look at it. this is a client component where I'm picking up session provider from NextAuth React, and I'm wrapping all my children under this session provider. Let's give it a quick save and head back to our main application layout.jsx. In this layout.jsx, I'm going to import this session providers component from the component folder, and I'm going to wrap everything under this session providers component. So let's take a recap what exactly we have done. We have created a session provider. We have created an API route with auth options in our API folder with the Next.js. Let's try to run the application and see if there is any error or mistake we have done. So npm run dev, and let's head back to localhost 3000. Everything works, seems okay. Now the next step which we are going to do is we are going to create a sign in button on the top right just next to this moon icon so that we can sign in our application. To do this, what we are going to do, we are going to stop this dev server and head back to our GitHub repository. In this GitHub repository, I have created one more component with the name sign in button. This sign in button is nothing but just a button and a menu option. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk about this in a second, but let me create the sign in button first. So sign in button.js, and I'm going to paste this entire code into this file. So what exactly are we doing here? We are using the headless UI menu to create the menu on top of the button when once we log in, once we log out. We are going to create two icons from React icons, and we are going to use the session sign out, sign in and sign out functionality from NextAuth for our different usages. So let's head to headless UI and see how the menu works. So this is the menu. To make this menu use, I'm going to run this command called npm install headless UI. This is going to install the headless UI in my application. And if you look at the basic example, it is very simple to use the headless UI. You just need to create a menu. You have to create menu buttons, items, and then you can create disabled items as well, and you just need to close the menu. So that is what we have done. But to make this menu appear based on the login, we have checked whether the session is provided to us from the use session function provided to us by nextauth. We are going to extract the data in session variable, and we are checking if the session is provided to us, then only display this menu. Otherwise, display a button to us where we are showing an image, which is a Google image, and a sign in keyword. Let's give it a quick save and head back to our application. Let's try to run this npm run dev and see how our application is looking. Everything works, seems like. We can't see any changes on the web page, but everything which we have done so far is going to appear to you in a moment. Let's open the component folder again and go to the site header component. On the just next to the themes toggle, I'm going to import the sign in button component and give it a quick save. Module can't be found. Okay, so we have to install one component, one module called CLSX. This module is used for combining multiple classes together while displaying the components. So now we have installed it. Let's try to run this application and again npm run dev and refresh this page. Perfect. You can see on the top right my sign in page is appearing and all the icons are also appearing. Let me give it justify center and items center class as well so that everything gets centered out. Perfect. So now everything is centered out. Let's try to test this functionality. The sign in button which we created, I'm going to click on the sign in button. It is going to take me to the sign in with Google button. I'll click on it. Which account I'm going to use is webdevwise100@gmail.com, and we have got some error. The error is the URL which we are using for our images is not provided in the next configuration. So what we have to do, we have to go into the next config and then under this we are going to add this URL http lh3 google user content.com into the image. Let's see how we do that. next.config.js. So if you look at this, it is saying module.export images loader custom, and let's try to see the image option. So I'm going to add the domain. Oops, I found the error. So looks like what we have to do, we have to get this thing added into next config, and then we have to export this next config into our application. Let's try to head back to our application. Okay, still not working. So what could be the reason? nextauth.js. Okay, perfect. Now my application has logged in successfully by, you can see on the top right, I can see my image from which is provided from the Google. And if I click on this image, a beautiful menu from the headless UI is appearing. You can see there are two links, dashboard and sign out. If I click on this dashboard, nothing happens. The reason being we have not added this dashboard page into our application. Let's do this together. So I'm going to close everything first, and then we are going to go into our app router, and I'm going to add one more folder called dashboard, and under that dashboard I'm going to create one more file called page.js. Under this page.js we are going to simply copy and paste the code which we have got in our GitHub repository, and we are going to talk about it together. So let's open this and paste this code into our file, and let's look at it together. So on the top, I'm creating a constant dashboard, and I'm just exporting this dashboard as default. I'm getting data, the session data from the use session function from next-auth React, and I've added one details to it where I'm saying the session is required as true, and if the user is not authenticated, then redirect the user to the base URL. With this key command, we are protecting our route. If the details are not provided to us by next-auth, we are going to redirect the user back to the home. Underneath, we have got the simple details like dashboard page, the session details, and at last, I've added one interesting component called confetti. I'm going to talk about this confetti in a moment. Let me comment this out and comment the top confetti as well and give it a save. Let's head back to our application and click on this image icon. Click on this dashboard button, and now you are presented with your all your details in the session. The confetti icon is nothing but a beautiful welcome confetti presented by this React confetti package. So it is not a required thing, but I like things to be interesting. So what I do, I just created this confetti application. So to install this, what we have to do, we have to go into the React confetti, and let's try to see React confetti, how it works. So I'm going to install this npm I React confetti. I'm going to stop my dev server and paste this command. The package is installed. Let me import confetti from React confetti, and I'm going to uncomment this confetti. So what I'm doing, I'm just importing this confetti component, and I'm saying run true, recycle false. That means run it only once. Let's head back to our application. Oh, I have to run my server first. npm run dev, and there we are. Let's try to navigate to dashboard. And as you can see on the top, you get the confetti once you are navigated back to this page. You can play around with this confetti as much as you like, but this is the simplest explanation you can find. Now let's try to sign out. I click on the image icon again, and I'll click on the sign out button, and it takes me back to the main home screen. Let us validate whether the dashboard route is working or not. No, the application is not letting me go to the dashboard page if I'm not signed in. Let's try to do the sign in again. Sign in with Google, and there we go. We can see our menu here. Let's navigate to dashboard. We can see all the details, and the confetti is welcoming us. So this was the quick tutorial how to implement Google Authentication in your application by using NextAuth package. And in the further sessions, we are going to talk about how we can implement user-based, the email-based client login in our application. We are going to create custom sign-in page where user can register itself. User can enter login details to login, and we'll provide you further details like error pages, how the user will be errored if the login details are not correct. So all those details are going to come in the next video. Hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and follow along uh, for the next year's videos. Thank you.